Good evening, gentlemen.
You guys,
Hello.
what's up?
So, the original idea is for tonight was Steve wants to talk a little bit about this AI thing that's going on, and it's been in the news. It's made the rounds. I imagine we'll start there, but we won't stay there because there's a lot going on around this. We were talking before the show. And there's a lot going on around this. So, all right,
Hey,
Steve.
what was the controversy? Big Twitter kerfuffle prior to AI.
Well, the one that I'm aware of and have been involved with the H-1B stuff, but
Oh, well, we moved from H1B. And then there was a big AI, and it's changing everything. Well, H1B was what, 3 weeks ago? I mean, it's ancient history now.
yeah.
And then AI, what? That was, what, a week ago?
And we've already moved past it.
It's old hat. It's old hat.
Yep.
Oh, what's the latest one? Oh, USAID, cutting that off. Prior to that, yeah, DEI, we're cutting out the DEI. Man,
Reportations.
I don't know about you guys, but I am having a hard time keeping up with all these major issues and the ramifications and whatnot. So, yeah, this stream, I suggested it. What was it, last Wednesday that we talk about AI and H1B? It seems like ancient history now, but
it's not.
the fallouts have not happened. So I think we should talk about that. And then, we'll probably touch on all these other things. But hey, the news has been a whirlwind.
Yep.
Oh, well, and it, guys, shortly after the election, we did a video. I forget exactly which one it was. We were, I might have been the keys to the future. It was either inertia or keys to the future. But what we were talking about is how one of the things we were talking about was things are only going to get worse faster. The speed is going to increase dramatically. And look. Look what happened. The speed increased dramatically. The speed increased, I think, at a higher rate than any of us were even thinking it would. I don't know. You guys can tell me.
We weren't anticipating all this crap happening so quick.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
we just thought it'd be like more of the same. Hey, we're going to make all these promises and not really deliver on them. Like, kind of like most politicians do. So
I don't know if we explicitly said, but we all three expected things to happen fast. But then when it happens, even I'm unprepared for what I predicted would happen.
What's that old saying?
I mean, mentally unprepared. It hasn't affected my day-to-day life. My day-to-day life goes on, and it's not going to affect that. But mentally, it's like, holy shit, where is the solid ground? Everything's changing, yet nothing's changing. But that, I think in general, people kind of feel unsettled with the rapid pace of apparent change, but how it doesn't affect their day-to-day life right now.
Well, it's fascinating that you say it that way because it isn't affecting people's lives, but it will. It's just going to take longer to reach the average person, I think.
So Steve and I were talking about high time preference thinking and low time preference thinking before we showed up in the chat before we started this stream. Sure, we'll touch on that.
Oh, yeah. If anyone thinks IQ wasn't going to come up tonight in a discussion that involves AI, lol. So one of the I saw an interesting tweet, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't save it because it wasn't about AI. Well, it was, and I have too many bookmarks in my Twitter as it is. But it was this person was talking about how we over the past call it 50 years we've built these incredibly complex information systems, and we have an enormous amount of information. What we don't have is a good map of that information, like accessibility. And AIs, particularly the data ingestion part of AIs, are actually really good at taking these enormous volumes of information and collating them, putting them together, bringing together the data in a way that is searchable. Now, we're going to get into some of the problems with this, and people are going to have to be careful because the speed at which it's happening is going to make it very easy for you to miss an AI hallucination. And I should probably describe what I mean. You all saw the thumbnail for this video, right? It's a robot underwater. It's I having fun with the title. It's SeekDeep, right? So the robot is seeking deep underwater. There is no humanoid robot that can go underwater right now. I actually convinced the AI to hallucinate something that does not exist in reality. Okay. And the reason the AI can do this is because it is not human. AIs are what we call inference engines. So they take my input prompt and they break it up into these tokens, and then they assign scores to these tokens, and they do some cool natural language processing things. I've known guys who've been working in NLP domains for over a decade now. There's nothing particularly new in this part of what the AI does. So they break it apart and they pass these tokens and these weights to the AI, and it's all the AI does is take those tokens and infer what you meant on the basis of those weights and words. For the longest time, ChatGPT 3 could not tell you the correct number of R's in the word strawberry. I don't. That was an experiment people were doing with ChatGPT. Goodness, about 6 to 9 months ago. Anyway, it couldn't, even though you could say, well, why can't the AI just literally scroll through each individual character and count up the number of R's? Well, because the AI itself does not have a concept of a word as individual characters. A word has a token assigned to it that is a complete unit of meaning. And so when you asked it to think about what its components of that word were, it could not do it. Whereas, if I ask a human, okay, Steve, how many R's are there in the word strawberry?
I think there's 3.
There's 3. The human scrolls through the word, counts up the R's, and goes, there's 3. And the answer is 3. ChatGPT gave you an answer of 2. And the reason for that was strawberry is actually 2 words mashed together, straw, berry. And it was looking at the berry, but not the straw. Because strawberries are berries, so it classified them in a taxonomy with berry, and so it came up with 2 R's.
Yeah, well, strawberry is a concept, is a definition. Strawberry. But the word, the descriptor of strawberry is a different element. It's made up of letters and sounds to represent the sound in the word to relate to the object. It's going a level deeper. It's a different kind of thought. And so if you ask a human that question, he goes to the concept of the word strawberry. Well, the answer isn't there. Oh, I have to go to this other place and reconstruct to get it. So it kind of points out that AI, we always think of it, oh, this is technology and electronics and all this stuff. Yeah, it is. But it's also composed of linguistics. Words are used. Okay, that's not a STEM function. Linguistics is not STEM. Phonics is not STEM. We learn phonics. Well, we used to learn phonics in 2nd or 3rd grade. So you ask the AI about how many R's in strawberry, he's up in some higher level. He can't go back down to the 2nd or 3rd grade level and know the phonics to figure out the answer. So AI, it's multidisciplinary.
Well, so it turns out, and it's good you brought that up, Steve, because it turns out that there was a way, somebody eventually figured it out, to get ChatGPT to give you the right answer. But what you had to do was you had to prompt ChatGPT to say, okay, take the word, split it into individual characters, and now count the number of R's in that array of characters, which is exactly how you would do it in an actual computer program. But an inference engine the inference engine could not make the intuitive leap from what, the concept of a strawberry to I need to actually think about this in concrete terms of the number of characters. And that, I think, is what you're kind of getting at, is there was this recognition on the part of the human that the concept of the strawberry doesn't work. I need to go somewhere else. The AI had to be told to do that. One of the fascinating things that's going on in the tech industry is more and more engineers are kind of popping up saying, yeah, we really don't use AI for anything. Like it can hallucinate some examples and, but what ends up happening is you'll give it some task, it'll go off and write some code, and it'll get the code about 80% right. And then the engineers say, okay, and I have to spend the rest of my time fixing the 20%. Oh, and by the way, if I had just written this myself, it would have taken the same amount of time as trying to get the AI to give me the right answer. So a lot of engineers are just kind of like meh about the whole thing, because it doesn't think like a human. They get close, don't get me wrong. 80% is really good, but it's about what you would have expected out of a 90 IQ engineer. They get 80% of the way there, and then somebody who actually knows what they're doing has to come in, clean up the mess.
Well, is there an analogy here between calculators and slide rules? Okay.
Interesting.
During the 60s, we had really smart engineers who worked for NASA and managed, designed, developed, did the whole moon, our trip to the moon. We didn't really have computers to run the rockets, rudimentary, supposedly less processing power than in your cell phone. And those guys certainly weren't using calculators. We had, okay, I'm going to date myself, but graduated from high school in 81. The first scientific calculators came down to the high school level in about 1979. and move back to like 75, you had rudimentary four banger, plus, minus, divide, multiply. That's your calculator. So, okay, so that's your
Slide
history
rule?
lesson. Okay, so these guys had slide rules.
Yes.
I don't know how to use one, but they'd come up with the answer, and it was good enough. Didn't have 7 digits of accuracy. Who the fuck cares? He got the decimal point, maybe 1 or 2 after that. It was good enough, and it got us to the moon. Okay. And they had to have the knowledge to use it. Now you give them a calculator, and they can do the answer. Probably not much faster, to a greater degree of accuracy. So what? And I think maybe this relates to this whole AI and DeepSeek thing. AI was going to be this great thing with great levels of accuracy. DeepSeek said, yeah, we can do it. Going to have less accuracy, but it's going to be faster, and you're going to be able to do more iterations, and it's going to be good enough. It's going to cut your energy consumption and your processing time and your equipment, and it's good enough. Meaning, for all practical purposes, it's the same.
Well, it's interesting. You're talking about there was actually a trick that the DeepSeek people used. And AIs are basically big tensor matrices. And in tensor matrices, use floating points. And so the common floating point is what's called a half float, or a 16-bit float. They used float 8s, 8-bit floats. So they were literally giving up accuracy of their vectors to get
the DeepSeek was giving up accuracy to get
intentionally.
That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, they're intentionally giving up accuracy in exchange for speed. It ended up helping them with training times and whatnot. Now, some news has come out that said that they lied about how easy it was to train, because the chips they're using to train on are actually under sanction now, and so if they admit it, then it gives Trump even more license to go after China, because DeepSeek came out of China.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah, was the news entirely accurate?
No.
Never is. There's more to the story. There is details that they just didn't say. There's complications. The story will drift a little bit. There's obstacles to be overcome. Not entirely correct, but generally, it's probably true. The minor obstacles, stumbling blocks, can be overcome. So is it generally true? Is it going to have 90%, 75%, 50% of the impact that they thought it would? Yeah. Okay. 50% of the impact of a world-changing event is still a world-changing event.
It's a big deal.
So MS dropped a question here that I want to get to. When did financial calculators enter the market? I remember them as far back as the early 90s, but any much more further back, and we're entering, my early childhood. So, Steve, you'll have to take it from there.
I'm just going on my recollection. Scientific calculators came out first. And that was in the early 80s.
Okay.
A financial calculator is not much different. Actually, in many ways, simpler. So it either came out concurrently or it came out within a couple of years. So early to mid 80s. To do the substantial things. Yeah. These were not graphing calculators. This was like the TI-30, which was, wow, that thing is amazing.
It had the TI-83s.
LED screen, big fat back, 9-volt battery powering it. Astounding. They were astounding.
For me, it was the old tape. You had the calculator and it printed out on the tape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was my first financial calculator. Nick, you mentioned the TI-83. I was actually
in high school. Then we had all the video games that we figured out how to upload.
So I actually ended up with a TI-86 because I was feeling punchy and it wasn't that much more expensive. And oh goodness, we had fun with that. I actually programmed some of the answers to math questions in there for the tests that I wasn't supposed to be able to, and they figured it out. And so they would start wiping the memory when you came in. It was, guys, this stuff 20, 30 years ago now, it was a different world than what you've got now.
Oh man,
I remember.
We knew how to cheat back in the day.
Yeah.
Not only did we do that, but we'd have somebody designated to do the homework, and then we copy it, and then purposely get certain questions wrong so nobody would catch on.
In engineering school, we had to do lab reports, and you had to plot things on a graph. This was before computers. So one guy would do the homework, he'd get the plot right. How would the other guy do it? Oh, we have the solution to this because we got a phonograph, a turntable, and it has that big plastic screen. You take your desk lamp, you turn it upside down, point it up, take the cover, the plastic cover, put it over the top, take the other guy's graph, put it underneath, put yours on top, and damn, you could just plot it out by making your own light table. That's the shit we did. People are very inventive, especially when it comes to avoiding work.
No shit.
If you want to avoid work, find your local teenager and hand them work, and they will figure out a way to avoid it. So I mean, okay, a little derailed by calculators, but
yeah,
we're a bunch of, I guess we're old people now, Nick. I guess we're so MS, it's a comment here. I am afraid AI and automation is going to take away a lot of jobs in a lot of sectors: banking, finance, coding, customer service. Yes and no. So if you are doing, okay, let's say you're doing entry-level customer service work, the kind of stuff that can be mostly replaced by a phone tree anyway, but the phone tree doesn't have enough options, so you need a little bit of semantic understanding of the question that the person is asking. AI can do that for you. But AI is not going to be able to do, well, here's an example. Also a pilot. So I've had to do this. I call into the status line at the airline. Hey, you guys rebooked me on this new plane. My seats are all messed up. Can you help me? Can you, and I see that, this other seat's available. Can I have that? Well, the AI is not going to have the authority or understanding to do it. Okay. Because let's say the airlines hold seats for various reasons. It could be, like service animals. They'll hold seats for service animals, disabled people, etc. Okay. The AI is not going to be able to look through it and say, well, okay, we'll put you in that seat, but you might get bumped. The AI is going to say, well, I can't put you in that seat because this rule exists. Okay. So the AI can help you get to the semantic meaning of, I need to change my seat because, my flight got rebooked. It can correctly identify that that's the situation, but it's not going to be able to offer up a specific concrete solution. And it might even hallucinate seats that don't exist, or, people assign seats that actually, and it tries to put you in an assigned seat. The hallucination problem stops AI from being a solution. So it can map and figure out a problem space, but it can't solve it.
Okay. I've been listening to some commentaries about this and, correlated with the financial world. Well, let me start out with background. AI can do things that it has a known set, a finite set of options.
Correct. Yes.
Solutions and codes. 20% of our economy, close to 20%, is healthcare. Think back in the past 10 years, doctors, everything has become coded. You code the symptoms, and that prescribes a diagnosis. That's it. He cannot use his doctor cannot use his expertise to bring in other factors and say, here's what you should do. No, that's not in there. But all these codes go into your software, and I don't know the industry, but supposedly there's a huge number of clerical type people keeping up the database and the software and updating your medical records. Now, if you can bring medical problems down to a finite number with prescribed things, if A plus B plus C exists, then here's your answer. Oh, okay, AI can handle that. And, a lot of those medical coders, they might be on the blocks to be replaced by AI because there's a lot of money in doing that. Now, on the other hand, AI, you're a logistics manager for the trucking company. Having different things coming in and out and weather, and here's a hotshot load that comes in and we need to get this out. Nope, that's not a finite number of things. AI is not going to be able to handle that because there are unknowns and there's human judgment involved. You're going to remove the human judgment. Yeah, it's absolutely a job for AI. That's my perception.
Well, you were talking about your hotshot load. Okay, that is okay. So a load shows up out of the blue, like, we've got to deal with this. AI does not handle disruption, midstream disruption very well. Okay, so if the variables change midway through a calculation, the AI just kind of goes bibbledy. It doesn't really know what to do with it. The AI has to start over from the beginning, taking the new variable into account. Well, that's going to get really expensive and time consuming really quickly. Because a lot of what humans do is deal with chaos, entropy, even, right? We deal with non-finite systems, and you're going to see a push to, particularly in places like banking and finance, and customer service and coding, to try and in all of these areas to try and make them more finite range. The reason that they're trying to make it finite range is so that no creativity is required, because AI does not have intuition. It does not have it. There's no creativity. There's no intuition. So what Steve is kind of describing here is, well, if I can strip all of the intuition and creativity out of solving the problem, then it's a problem that an AI can resolve without hallucinating too much. Now,
There's too many places. There's too many parts involved. So you can have a manufacturer error that it can't account for. You can have a coding error that AI just doesn't understand. You can have another outside factor that it didn't even anticipate.
Right. So what we've done is a very long-winded description of how jobs for the people with IQs less than 95 are going to experience massive upheaval. But what this will actually end up doing is, for people with high IQs, is increasing the demand on them.
Well, we've also identified a great career opportunity. Since we'll just accept AI is going to be a thing. And management is going to say, make AI work. Those guys are not always the highest IQ. They don't care.
Most of them aren't.
They don't care that there's major obstacles that make it not work well. Just make it go, do it. Okay. So now you got to do it, even though it's not the right thing to do. So now you have to go outside of the AI, pre-AI, to the inputs to make it comprehensible and finite for AI. So the people who are, coin the term, an AI facilitator, to go back to quantify the inputs, to take out the variability of the inputs. So it goes into the AI. And then, the guy said, oh, there's a hot shot load or something that comes in to disrupt. You kind of have to figure out a way to make that a known factor before it actually happens. Oh, how do you make it a known factor? Oh, well, we reserve 1%, 2% of our capacity to handle this unforeseen event when it comes in, so it doesn't disrupt the rest of our process. Okay, that is a skill that's going to be needed.
All right, MS in the chat today. Okay, so AI has no creativity and cannot use its intuition to solve more complex problems. I want to be very clear here. AI
what is a complex part?
Well, no, AI has no human intuition. What it can do, so intuition is the ability to take information, a blob of information, and realize something outside of that blob. Okay. AI cannot realize something outside of the blob of information that it already knows. They are inference engines. They infer things inside the blob of data that it already has access to. Now, this can be very useful. For example, I could see AI used to look over a, balance sheet or a transaction log from a business and work out that maybe there's some fraud occurring in the pattern that it's following. These things are very, very acute pattern matchers. And the human brain does pattern matching too, but
not to the same extent.
Not to the same extent.
So a pattern that occurs infrequently over a period of a year will not be detectable by a human, but might be easily identifiable by an AI or a computer.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, I've seen a bartender get fired over that. One of these chain restaurants that started implementing, they record things and like, oh, this person always has this weird deviation over about a year.
Well, but the point that I'm trying to make is that all the information necessary to determine that somebody is stealing from the company, embezzlement is what we're talking about, is contained within the financial information. So the AI can take a look at this information and make these incredible inferences about what's missing in that information, and it can spot the pattern probably faster than a human can. Now,
so can the U.S. previous vision of AI solve that problem? Yeah. Can the DeepSeek quick solution solve that problem equally well? With less resources,
probably
energy,
not.
Infrastructure?
Probably not, because
you don't think so?
Well, because we have to remember that that all AI still runs on a linear algebra or Boolean algebra computation machine. They are still fixed. There is no squishiness in their final calculations. So the trade-off that the DeepSeek guys did is they took a less fine-grained model and they trained it quicker because it's less fine-grained. But what that means is that its ability to infer things is going to be less fine-grained. Okay.
Okay. But is it still going to discover 90% of the things that the better model would have?
That's a tough question that I don't have an answer to. What I would say is that the less fine-grained you get in the model, the less fine-grained a result is. And it's possible that if the person is random enough in their deviant behavior, that a coarse-grained model might not have the granularity to catch what they're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, but that's a useful answer, because we've uncovered one of the unknowns that follows us into the future. It says, gee, is the DeepSeek as good and as efficient, and is it going to be revolutionary, and is it going to be the model that's adopted and supersede the old way of thinking? We don't know yet. It might not actually do everything. How can we determine that? We can't. Time will tell.
Well, there's another interesting facet here, is you need to treat all AI answers with some amount of skepticism. Because remember, what we were talking about here is that, well, maybe this AI model will miss something that this other one won't. So now the question becomes, okay, but if the AI model misses it and I trust the AI model completely, then you have to accept that there's a certain amount of stuff you're just going to miss, which is a lot like what it is working with humans. Now, I'm not trying to equate AIs to human. There are things they cannot do that humans can do, but there's an aspect here that when you're dealing with AI, you need to be aware that the AI does not perceive the world like you do. Nick perceives the world differently than I do, and differently than Steve does, who also perceives the world differently than I do. We all have human perceptions. Well, the AI has a perception of the world, and that perception is very alien to us. So one of the problems that we can run into, and I think we've talked about Luigi before, I think one of the things that's happening is that, talk about healthcare, they're getting a little too reliant on the AI, and they're not, and the AI, they're not seeing what the AI is missing.
Yeah, let me give you an analogy. In case any of you haven't figured out, I'm an old fart. And you know what? I didn't go direct deposit on my paychecks. I get paper checks. Kind of like that. I get the pay stub and all that. The rest of you folks, yeah, it gets deposited in your account. But I got the paychecks, and that means I have to go to the bank to deposit them. Well, okay. I'm single.
I do
not
that.
living
I like
paycheck
going
to
there.
paycheck. So I don't make it to the bank every week. I don't even need to make it to the bank in 3 weeks. Or, okay, so I go to the bank. I got 4 paychecks. Okay, I get the deposit slip. I write down the amount for each one. And at the counter, I total it up, come up with a number. And I go up and I deposit my money. Wait a minute. I added 3 4-digit plus 2 decimal places, 6-digit numbers to come up with the answer. I bring it up, and it takes me like, I don't know, a minute to do the addition. You fuckers, you young fuckers cannot do that.
They can't do that. I can.
You cannot do that. You cannot add a column of numbers, boom, 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 and get it done, get the answer, and go up there, because I know the old way, and I'm not dependent on the calculator to do it. Okay, here's the risk. We get AI. Everybody gets dependent on AI giving them the answers. They can't find the answer on their own. They've lost the ability to think. And it's already happening. You younger people have lost the ability to just add a simple column of numbers. You've lost the ability to do simple calculations, multiplications in your head. And you know what? I'm still not the best at this. A smart guy, a generation earlier than me, was wicked fast doing math in his head.
Oh man, Nick and I are actually, because we're about the same age. Nick and I are probably the last generation that was even taught how to do it that way.
No, they did not let us have calculators except for certain things. They'd take them up.
But that proves my point. You guys know how to do it. My guess is you don't practice it.
No, we don't.
Every once in a while.
I know how to do it. And damn, I'm good enough at it that it's just simpler for me to do it in my head than to go through all the bother of taking out a calculator to do it. But okay, this is just a generational difference. You've become more dependent, and normally so, on the new technology than I have. And I have you ever seen an 80-year-old person with a cell phone?
that is a little funny to watch.
Okay, what the hell is this thing? They just doesn't work. Well, okay, I can't use a cell phone. I know how to use a smartphone. But, compared to younger people, I still am a bit of a dinosaur. Okay.
I remember my grandparents going through when the email started coming out. They would open every email, open every attachment. They were always getting hacked, getting viruses. It was
Yeah, I had the same problem with my grandparents. It was not pretty. So MS, he's mentioning here, senior management using AI as a sort of Damocles over the heads of junior employees to ensure that they are more productive at their jobs. Yes, and you're going to see more of this because the AI doesn't target the mid to high level people who know what they're doing. In fact, the company needs those mid to high level people more than ever to check the work of the AI, which is kind of how we have been using junior employees in this economy. Now, this creates a problem. The junior employees never get the experience to become mid or senior level employees. So we actually run the risk of creating a sort of cult of people who can be AI whisperers, for maybe that term will catch on, maybe not. But those are the people who can figure out whether the AI is hallucinating or not, and everyone else just kind of has to take their word for it. So, he's talking, it's more of a way to ensure higher employee productivity. Yeah, exactly. I think not only are we seeing
are
that,
they doing that with the government right now? I wonder if they've implemented that with.
No.
Oh,
what's going on with the government's quite different. Now they don't actually even need to use. I think they are using AI for some bits of the analysis, but most of it is actually just yanking data into Excel or Tableau and ripping it apart because they have the raw data to work with there.
About checking their productivity.
I want
government
to push back on this. Senior management isn't smarter. I mean, I'm a fan of Aaron Clary. Have you listened to him and his experiences working his way up in the banking world as a credit analyst and reporting to someone above him? They were not smarter than him. They didn't make good decisions. They told him what to do. They pretty much held him back. Or forced them to make loans to people who really, this is stupid. Okay,
well, okay,
that's
Steve.
what management does.
I want to turn this on its head a little bit, though. How smart do you need to be to recognize that AI can be used this way and then use it that way? Is that smart or just sociopathic?
Definitely management will use the threat of AI to incentivize or threaten the people under them. But the really smart guys who really can see through the bullshit are actually going to be held down.
Oh,
just like
absolutely.
In government right now, Trump is causing some turmoil. What did he do? Cancel USAID. That potentially throws a lot of employees or a lot of people out of work. Oh, saying no more DEI. That's out. Scrap your DEI departments. That threatens a lot of people.
Yep.
Oh, good. And you know damn well he's going after unproductive government workers.
I mean, like about all of them?
As he already did. Oh, you're working from home? You can not get a paycheck, or you can report to the office.
They did that whole resign thing.
I know, but if I'm working from home, I'm going to fuck off a lot of the time. That's why I never.
And a lot of these people move to different cities and different states to work remotely because they could.
And
so now
so some employees were not doing diddly squat. Some employees were doing their job, which required 3 hours a day. Now, were these employees being lazy because they were only working 3 hours a day? Yeah, some. Some were only working 3 hours a day because that's what it required to get their job done. And they might have been smarter and wanted to do more and assert themselves more, but they were actually told by their bosses, no, you do your job. Don't do my job. Don't do more than your job. Don't create problems for me. Just do your job and shut the fuck up.
Don't get special training to rock up to threaten the hierarchy.
Nick and I were discussing this earlier. So not all these underutilized employees are doing it because they're lazy. Some are just restricted. So we have all this turmoil. And okay, throw AI in. AI is a system disruptive factor. And how is it going to change things? I don't know. The managers are going to try and use AI, but in some ways, managers aren't smart enough to use AI in its best way. They're going to use it as a threat, but some of these people underneath them actually are smart enough that they know they're needed. They're actually held back. How's it going to turn out? I don't know. But this is great because the system is in turmoil.
Well, Steve, okay. I want to so I work from home, and the result of working from home means that I work more than I used to when I was at the office by a lot. Now, I'm strange. And like I've kind of always been this way. But when I was working at an office, I noticed that there was a certain type, avoiding the word class here. There's a certain type of person who made it their business to be in everyone else's business. So, everyone's saying, oh, just go back to the office. That'll fix the productivity problem. Yeah, I'm not so sure of that. Now, look, there are pros and cons to offices. You send me home, I'm actually going to work. I'm going to get more done. I'm going to be more productive. Why? Because there's fewer busybodies busy bodying me at the office. Okay. You can use work from home as a perk like that. If you have somebody who's, they're an A performer, you can say, okay, look, you can go home. Now, federal government doesn't do that. And the reason for that is, and I think this is going to be more where we need to be focusing, most federal government jobs do not require significant intelligence. You're kind of getting there with your rant there earlier, Steve. Yeah, there's some people who, they're being held down. But there's a lot of people for whom that 3 hours of work is a full day's work. It isn't 8 hours of work because that is the speed they can work at.
True enough.
The federal government is a jobs program. It is.
Oh, yes. I'll agree with you there. So what happens when we remove this jobs program from the economy, and these people are not making money, spending it into the economy?
Well, do you want to know what a depression looks like? Because and the reason I say that is because these are people. We talk about IQ and the bell curve, and everyone loves talking about the plus 1, 2, 3 standard deviations, all the smart people. No. You need to focus on the 100 and lower because they are half the population, and the number of jobs that they can do productively has been shrinking for years. AI is going to turn this up to 11. Okay. Okay, Tacticus. Tacticus brought up a comment, and I want to bring it up because he's actually... Okay, Tacticus, you said enter UBI. I saw a tweet. I don't have it up for tonight because this was a couple weeks ago. But as Doge was getting started, people were starting to dig into the data. There was another Twitter person who actually built a database of all of the individual transactions where like USAID went and all that. Okay, published it. And what people started realizing is that the federal government is UBI. Okay. Like these people have, and I'm not just talking about, the government employees. I'm talking about the employees at all the grant receiving organizations to work around YouTube's dislike of the acronym, right? So these grant receiving organizations will pay somebody $300,000 to $500,000 a year to sit there and be a grant machine. All they do is they plod through the documentation, plod through the government, the Byzantine government agencies, and they get these grants, and that's their whole job, and they get paid lots of money to do it. But this doesn't require any particular intelligence. It just requires the ability to fill out forms, follow procedures, the kind of thing that I can teach anybody with an IQ of 90 to do. Follow a procedure, fill out a form. And now the kind of sad part of this is that the government side of the system had to be specifically set up so that these people could do this. Okay. It had to be set up so that it was easy to follow, proper forms, proper channels, et cetera, et cetera. And they did all that. And they did all that through the bureaucracy, not the congressional side, because Congress could never dream up something that inefficient. But it worked. And so what you're going to see over the next couple of years is, look, we've been talking about finances, depression. We've been talking about how that's coming. Well, the federal government alone is 2.5 million employees. It can probably be run everything it needs to do on 500,000, and that's being generous. Steve and I were talking after the show we did with my wife on Saturday, and we were talking about the airliner crash, the helicopter airliner collision, and we kind of noted that you don't see the NTSB in the news very often for a major scandal, finance scandal, and they tend to be pretty competent at their jobs, right? But it's not a lot of people there. The agency's I think it's 2,000 people, and you could probably cut that in half, and they could still do their job competently. So there are and the Department of Transportation, FAA, NTSB, these are actually things that do follow under the constitutional ambit, particularly of interstate commerce, because it is truly interstate. And they actually tend to do a reasonably competent job. But there's not a lot of grift to be had in, say, NTSB accident investigations, right? So they don't become grift mills. Whereas things like USAID do.
The other, similar organizations. NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Has to inspect nuclear reactors. They're smart. There's not a lot of graft there. They just do their jobs. The air traffic controllers. Not a lot of controversy there. Highly competent people. Yes, occasionally there's mistakes. Okay. Even smart people, competent people make mistakes. There could be staffing shortages. Oh, that's caused by the bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, NTSB, they've put 90 some proposals into the FAA to change things. FAA has not changed things. Wait, the FAA is a bureaucracy. They have political things and people pushing on them to see their side of things.
Yep.
They're not quite as immune. Can anybody political influence the NTSB? They'll tell them, take a hike. We're doing our investigation. We'll let you know when we're done, and we're not pulling any punches. So there are some government branches that are highly respectable. Generally, there's not a lot of money to be made by influencing them. There's not a lot of bureaucracy or political bullshit. They just do their job according to the rules. And also, it's pretty highly intelligent, trained, competent people in those organizations. But the more you move away from that into the touchy-feely, like USAID, there's nothing technical in there.
Not a thing.
Yeah, the more tendency it gets to be prone to inefficiency, and corruption or bribery or just being a money sink.
Yeah, and I think that's where the risks of particularly UBI come in. Look, I don't think that we're going to continue to do UBI. It has been in all other experiments, it has been proven to be just a horrifically bad idea. Tactic has actually dropped a comment in here. There's a conversation going on in the chat, and we're only pulling up bits of it. So shout out to the chat. You guys are on fire tonight. UBI is a bad idea. It's prepaying for performance with no guarantee of performance. Yeah, that's part of it. But also, like, when you read about it, what people like Kelton, curse her name, Stephanie Kelton, have written about it. They're not even prepaying for performance. They're literally just saying we can, so we should. And their definition of can is mathematically unsound.
You said government has 2.5 million employees. Probably could get by with 500,000. Okay,
Yep.
Well, I'm not going that far. Let's just say there's 1 million that are not needed and we could live without. Let's just say those people are unproductive or maybe even negatively productive. So they're not on UBI. They're on government basic income, GBI.
Yep.
How about we move them over to UBI? Wouldn't we be better off by taking them out so they can't fuck up what they're doing now? And they're not doing anything now. And let's move them to UBI so we're not completely depriving them of money so they can still survive and put their money into the economy. And we're pissing the money away paying them now. Are we any worse pissing away the money paying them for not doing anything since we're already doing that?
Probably not. It would only make sense, though. Okay, so here's the deal. It would only make sense if you were paying them less than they made in the jobs they were doing. And they're going to squeal about that. Where I think the actual problem isn't with the government, because the government pay scales are pretty well defined. Like, you can go look up, what a GS-14 is, and it'll rip off a number and okay. And there's a little bit of range. Like, if you live in DC, you get a bump because DC is super expensive, or New York or something like that, but it's not much, a couple thousand a year. So the public government pay scales, they're not great, and they're well defined, and you're just not going to break them. It's the grant receiving organizations, which is GROs, is what I'm going to call them, because the November golf Oscar term is not happy with YouTube. So grant receiving organizations, that's where the real money is. That's where you go. How the game works in government, and there's a variation of this on the Republican side, the Republican conservative side too, and we can get into that. But how the game works is you go into government, you work there long enough to get your pension, which I think is 20 years. And you build up just an incredible amount of experience with one specific little piece of the government. And then you get your pension and you leave and you go to the NGO. And the NGO, so like at the government, after 20 years, you're probably GS 14, 15, you're making 75,000, I think. Don't quote me on that. Okay, you go to the NGO. The NGO pays you 300,000 a year. But they have to pay you because you're the one who knows everything about that little bit of that particular government bureaucracy. That's the payoff. It happens later. There's a variation of this that's done with okay, can't say that. You got the Mickeys. There's a variation of this that goes on where you're in you're inside the DoD, for example, and you build up a fiefdom. You could either be civil or military side, doesn't matter. There's a grift for both sides, and then you go off to one of the defense contractors, and they pay you tons of money, and you get board seat. If you're like a general, you get like a seat at the board, and like so the same thing exists over there too. Okay.
Hey, Plutarch.
Go ahead.
Have you ever thought about contacting Elon Musk, going to work for the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE?
I have. I'm probably not the right person for that on a technical skill sense. I don't have those analytics tooling skills.
Hey, but you just identified that the grants is what we have to go after next. I think you should get a job at Doge.
I like my job and it pays better. I'm not even kidding. And frankly, the young dudes who are doing it, Doge needs to move at a speed that it's a young man's game what they're doing, and I respect it and I support it. And there are people on so it's not just the people in Doge. One of the things that I have seen this done, there was an account, Data Republican is her that's her like screen name or display name. I forget what the handle is, but she has actually tweeted at Elon, and she might actually be the one that got him started on USAID or USAID, because she was pulling out all these grants and all of this stuff and going, here, did you see this and you see that? And I think what happened is she kind of twigged Elon, and then Elon took his, brain trust of autists and said, here, go. And they went and they found. There's going to be more of this. But this is a public-private, like there are people who are not part of Doge who are helping out. So, it's.
I think.
I know we're getting off topic.
We are getting off topic.
Doge is so fucking destroyed now that even the libtards cannot push back and save it.
Well, one of the points that I was reading about earlier today is that Elon had to do this because, okay, we're in the evidence gathering stage now. There's going to be an arrest stage later, and people and if they don't get people, just everyday people behind this, it's going to look political, even if it's not. So,
yeah.
I think that's what I said. I think what they're doing is the right thing. I think how they're doing it is the right thing. I will help from the outside where I can. My concerns are probably more focused on the H-1B stuff, and that's going to have to wait a little while. There's some national security concerns about H-1B. There's some, there's some economic concerns about H-1B, all of that stuff. So, that's for a later conversation.
Okay.
Right now
Nick
they're
was
doing
trying to
what they
bring
need
us
to do.
back onto track here.
He was good.
Come on, Nick, do your job. Bring us back on track.
All right. So how is AI what does AI have to do with can AI eliminate, can they use AI programs to see who's productive, who's not necessary, and on a government level? Are they actually doing that?
Don't know if they're actually doing that. I haven't seen anything about that. Could they? Again, remember, an AI is an inference engine. The AI is not going to come up with ways to measure productivity. It could only use methods of measuring productivity that we've come up with. And I'm not sure that they're okay. I have to be careful how I say this. There are very definitely low-hanging fruit government employees who are doing absolutely nothing that the AI could look at and go, I see your emails. I see your, I see your lack of emails. I see your lack of forms filled out. Like clearly you're just, but okay. One of the things that I've been studying lately is topological thinking. Okay. Spin this around on its ear though. The thing that AI can't do is say, is what these this high productivity employee, answering lots of emails, filling out lots of forms, is what they're doing productive?
That's another question.
And I would argue the more important one.
I'm thinking of what was the book? Not a book, movie. Was it Office Space? With the TPS reports and all the useless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but think about it that way. The AI cannot make a determination about the value of the work being done. Yeah, I can probably get an AI to say, okay, here's a set of selectors for performance. Now go find the low performers and high performers. But the AI isn't going to make a judgment call into whether or not what those high performers are doing is valuable work, is work, it's like.
And SeekDeep probably wouldn't be able to do that on that level.
Yeah.
Humans can't do that most of the time. Oh, he's busy all the time. He's involved in everything. And he's sending emails and he knows everybody. Yeah. Okay.
Steve,
is he doing anything that's actually productive?
Well, Steve,
I don't know.
Goes back to something I wanted to ask you earlier. Okay, so we're going to send all these people back to the office. Okay, we've got the
useless paper pushers.
Yeah, exactly. And the managers promote them first, right? So okay, so the busybodies come back to the office. They go back to their busybody ways, being, pushing paper around, pushing emails around, making sure that the boss and the AI knows that they are hyper productive people, and they get promoted for being really good at appearing to work.
Okay.
Well, isn't that kind of what we have in our military too?
I recognize that
military side,
but I'm
very decorated paper pals.
I'm going to argue the other side. It shows that you're imposing discipline because they have to get up in the morning, they have to get in their car, get their ass to work, and show up on time. Well, hopefully, and put Steve, be at work all the time. But the biggest benefit is the restaurants around the facility where they work will make money. Because
I've heard that argument. The discipline thing, I have never seen a busybody have problem with discipline. In fact, the busybodies tend to be the most disciplined folks out there because the rules are all they know. It reminds me of a Thomas Sowell quote. For the government, for the bureaucrat, the process is everything. The outcome is nothing. These are people.
Sounds like the modern church.
Yes,
that's like your Presbyterians. I can't stand the useless bureaucrats. Always by the rules, but they can never fix the damn problem.
It's everywhere.
Infuriating.
Well, it's no less infuriating when you have to go to the DMV as when you encounter it in the church. It's the same everywhere because these people are incredibly disciplined. They know the process to follow. They know the correct prayers to say in the correct order to be granted absolution, right? It's for them, the process is everything. The outcome is nothing. Okay. And I want to hammer that home. So I don't think that bringing them to the office is going to change anything because they were already so hopelessly enamored of process that they're just going to do their process at the office instead of the at home. Now, can they fart around more at home? So yeah, sure.
There's a phrase I learned. There's a phrase I learned. These type of people, I learned it from one of my mentors, and I heard it a lot when I was licentiate in the PCA and sometimes in the OPC. Just follow the process, trust the process. But there's no outcome. The outcome is just uselessness.
Well, there is a place for a process. Steve, you're an engineer. You're a mechanical engineer. When you were a young buck engineer, your company that you worked for probably had a lot of processes in place, and those processes were designed to keep you from fucking up too badly, right?
True. But the process is subservient to the outcome. I didn't learn that until later.
Yes.
I went in the consulting business, and biggest asshole boss I ever had, but smart guy. He said, you can do any job in 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years. First of all, not to the same level of detail, but figure out what the outcome is and the deadline. And that is what you're working towards. And then work your way towards that. So, outcome is paramount. The product, whatever you have to solve. And then you have to develop a process to get there with as much precision as time allows.
Well, yeah, and here's where I think the process train went off the rails. Processes serve a purpose. They are they're guardrails to keep you from screwing up too badly. In software, we use tests. We have these big test, things, and they're there to prevent us from making mistakes that are going to blow up the system. Now, you can still do it if it's a brand new thing and your new test didn't catch it. Okay, things happen. But the point was that the process ensured the desired outcome. When we're talking about process for government, the government is always and everywhere unconcerned with the outcome of the process, because now you all might remember, my wife is not from the United States. I had to go through the process of importing my wife. That process involves a number of petitions. That's actually what the documents are called. They're petitions for, it's a petition for a work permit, petition for green card. It's petitions for various visas. They are requests of the government. The government can at any moment say, no, we don't, something wrong on your paperwork. So the answer is no. Okay. Because the point of the whole thing is the process to the government. The government doesn't care if person A gets a green card and person B does not. It doesn't matter to them one way or the other. As long as the correct processes were followed, the outcome itself will be as it may. So, we can talk about, businesses where businesses have to deliver an outcome in most cases. And it's the departments of businesses that don't have to deliver outcomes that tend to do the worst, that tend to fall into the same trap. But the purpose of the government is in almost no cases to deliver an outcome, except, Steve, we were talking about the NTSB earlier. They have to deliver a report, a set of actions, recommended actions to take, right? The NTSB has an expected outcome of an investigation. Oh, look, the NTSB relatively competent at what they do. NRC, same thing. They are required to produce an outcome. In this particular case, reactors don't melt down. Oh, look, relatively competent at what they do. So I think the thing with government is we need to be focusing on agencies where the process is the point versus agencies where the outcome is the point. Did we just elucidate something here?
That's a great thing you said. That's the purpose. That's why I love our conversations. We were initially talking about, it's those agencies where there's really smart technical people, that they're the productive ones and we can trust them. Now, Plutarch introduced the idea that they are product outcome driven, not process driven, which might be a different aspect of why they're more trustworthy.
Well,
I think that's valid, and I think that's great insight.
Okay, so let's flip this back to AI. The NTSB might use AI to do a reconstructive analysis. Okay. But that's part of their work product. It's overseen by the investigators. The AI becomes a supplementary tool that allows them to do something more quickly.
Whereas if point.
Right, yeah, exactly. Whereas if you go to the organization where the process is the point, the AI can do the process. Oh. And so the AI can replace the people. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that having AI do processes is a good thing. As I said, go back, look at what United Healthcare is doing and how they ended up with a CEO getting unalived. Right? You know, there still needs to be oversight to these things, and people asking, is what the AI doing valuable? Because when we're talking about process, we need to be asking if the process is valuable. And that takes a human. The AI can never do that. The AI is always just going to be, is the process being met according to these metrics? It's never going to ask
quantitative versus qualitative.
Correct. Thinking. Yes. The AI, yeah, exactly. The AI can't do qualitative analysis.
So it seems to me that whether we use the traditional intensive AI or the Chinese DeepSeek efficient AI is going to do stuff, and it's going to take over processes. And the processes that AI can do are the quantifiable processes without random inputs that disrupt the process. So the more known and routine your job is, the more impact AI is going to have on your livelihood. And regardless of how sophisticated your job appears to be, if it has more random or unknown or uncontrollable aspects, not easily taken over by AI or computerization.
Yeah.
Is that true? Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, and MS is he's talking in the comments about using AI for surveillance, and I want to address this. I've also heard that several companies have employee surveillance tools that are highly sophisticated, and that they want to get a return on their investment for developing them. Yes, they are using AI, ML. ML is actually the correct term for this, so machine learning, and. Many companies want their employees to return to monitor full time. That's why the work from home is ending. I don't know that that's all of that, because the monitoring agent can be installed on the remote laptop and they can monitor there too. I don't know that that's necessary. But it might be, they might get a better picture of what's going on. The interesting thing about this is that it looped back to what we were talking about. the AI can surveil a process worker a lot better than it can surveil a knowledge worker. Because for a knowledge worker, you actually are paying them to tip back in their chair and think. Okay. Well, how does the AI measure you thinking? There's no inputs anywhere for it to measure. But you're actually doing your job, and you're probably doing your job better than most people who are sitting there hammering away like drunk monkeys on a keyboard.
I got to tell you something funny that kind of illustrates this. I've told all of you that I'm a truck driver. I drive a semi-truck. Okay, so in modern semi-trucks, they have cameras. Okay, most of the trucks, mine, they didn't activate it because shit happens. It has a forward-facing camera, which I'm all in favor of. It's scanning the road in front of you. Mine wasn't activated because it just didn't get done. But there was also they were implementing a driver-facing camera. A lot of companies do that. So this is for safety, watching the guy, and if he nods off, sends an alarm. Or if he's going around and looking down on the floor, not paying attention to the road, it's going to note that. And then it's going to do an alarm in the truck, and it's going to send a signal to his boss that, hey, this is an inattentive driver. Well, the company implemented that, not at my place, some other location. They were getting so many notifications of inattentive driving and problems that they shut it off. Now, before they activated it, was there ever a problem with a lot of accidents or inattentive driving? No. We just think this is a good idea. We'll monitor our drivers. And then they get so many. Oh, he just looked over here for 2 seconds. Oh, the AI. Oh, he wasn't paying attention to the road. And they turned it off. Okay. You cannot expect your systems to perform perfectly, and you're overwhelmed with information, and a lot of times it's ignored, or they just turn off the alarm because it's overwhelming me and I don't want to be bothered.
So Tactics actually has a great comment on this. The comments from, oh goodness, like 10 minutes ago, but this is analysis paralysis. And it ends up being this eternal just loop of data. It's like, and this goes back to, yes, we can measure something, but is the thing we're measuring valuable? Okay. This is the same problem. Yeah, they got a ton of information.
Is it the right correlation?
Yeah.
Or is it merely is it causation, correlation, and there's other?
Well, but in this particular case, Steve's, they never stopped to ask the question, and Steve, you said this, they never stopped to ask the question, are we having a lot of wrecks due to inattentiveness? No. Okay, but we're still going to measure inattentiveness. Why? Do you have a problem?
Because we can, and we have the technology to do that.
Well, and this gets into the age-old question of science, and something that we are struggling with, hell, not just in science, but this age-old question of just because we can, should we? It doesn't make sense to. Yes, I can do lots of things, many of them ridiculously retarded. Doesn't mean I should do them.
Well, it's like when I was a pastor. Yeah, I could do certain things, but hey, I could call this person out. I could confront this person, but is that what I really need to do right now? Or are there other bigger things going on that would just be distracting from the larger picture? that they couldn't handle that right now.
Sometimes, and okay, we're a red pill channel, so I'm going to go here. Sometimes when it is not in the person's best interest to wreck them in front of their face or in front of other people, or they just can't. They need to have for lack of a better term, a shoulder to cry on, and then maybe once they've cried it out a bit, they will be more open to suggestion of how to actually fix it. I don't know what your experience with that was, Nick.
They're not a real man, They're not a real man.
Well,
they need to get over the hurt. No, fuck their hurt. Their lives are wrecked. They just need to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Make bank, bro. 666, man.
Right. Now, I'm not saying that guys, crying on shoulders is that's not really the thing that I'm looking for. But the idea that you don't always have to be shitting on the man and telling him that he has to. Sometimes the guy just needs another guy to listen to him and say, you know what, man, I've been there, I understand. And then you could say, look, if you want solutions,
this would helps.
Yeah. And
right, but you have to. If this is where the intuition and the experience comes in.
Yes.
Okay. Prior to this stream, we were talking about a guy who wants to come in, discuss / debate red pill stuff. Oh, we got to come up with a date. Okay, it's going to be a Saturday. Okay, this isn't firm, but I'm just using this as an analogy. We could do it this Saturday. Maybe. But Nick says, well, you're better off making sure you're prepared. True enough. So let's not rush into something that's not needed right now. This isn't with animosity or we're going to, but you have to prepare. So, next week? No, can't do it because of a conflict. Okay, 2 weeks out. Okay, so you're planning it. So you don't need to rush in. You have to prudently prepare and think about it because for your own benefit and for respect for whoever your adversary is. So you're not rashly just going off the cuff and, being unethical and whatnot. Give some time to think about it. I forgot where I was going with this, but maybe you can finish my thought.
Well, I think it goes.
You go ahead, Plutarch.
I think it goes back to kind of what Nick was saying is that it takes more than just run at the problem, got to solve the problem. You have to make sure that the problem you're solving is actually the problem first. And, that was just as true as Steve's truck story as it is with you're dealing with a guy who's going through red pill shit. Okay.
Right. That's where I was going. You got to give some thought to whatever is in front of you. Decide how you're going to navigate it. The frontal assault. Dealing with this. Oh, they transgressed. I need to attack them right now. Maybe not. Maybe you need to gather information. Maybe you need to prepare for a future confrontation. Or maybe you need to understand where they're coming from. And maybe they just need some encouragement. Maybe your wife just needs a hug. There was no need for confrontation. Or maybe you're preparing for battle and you better prepare for a future confrontation. This is called judgment. AI cannot do this.
No, it cannot.
It's assessing what the situation is. It's using some intuition. You're
not
amassing. Inference. Okay.
Inference, not intuition.
Thank you for the correction. Inference. You're amassing a lot of things. You don't even know all the things that are going on in your head. And the data from different sources to come together, not consciously. That's why we call it an inference, to decide what to do. AI cannot do that task.
Hey, MS, I hope we've answered some of your questions tonight. You've had a lot of good ones, and I know I'm glad you showed up. So thank you for your questions. I'm sure there's lots more we could go on about this. On the red pill side, and in terms of how I would talk about it from the AI, don't let the AIs steal your humanity. And what I mean by that is there are things that the AI cannot do. So do not compete with the AI in what it can do. Compete with the things, compete on the directions of the things that it cannot do. And that's why I want to be very careful about this inference versus intuition thing. Okay. AIs do not intuit, they infer. The human brain can also do an inference. Like, don't get me wrong, that is definitely something the human brain can do. But there are also things that the human brain can do that the AI just cannot do yet. So focus on those things. If you're looking for actionable advice, you're out there, guys, in your career world trying to figure out what to do. Focus on things that the AI cannot do, because it cannot do everything. And it's important not to be afraid of them, because if you're afraid of them, you'll never truly understand them. So you have to approach understanding them rationally, just like you would anything.
Are you doing some Sun Tzu here?
I might be a little bit, but what is the red pill? How did the red pill decode women? They approached it without fear of women. And that meant that they were able to engage their higher thought processes and start analyzing their interactions and going, you know what, that worked, that didn't. And then they built up a compendium of information about what didn't work. And then they started doing analysis on top of that, going, well, why didn't it work? And why did this work? Well, you can do that here too.
Observing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving into what is the motivations for this behavior? And what is the things that a man does that causes the behavior? And if the stimulus,
mm-hmm.
And if a man changes the stimulus, sometimes it changes the behavior and sometimes it doesn't. So why is that? It was an iterative process, an effort of a lot of people to form a map of females.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much developed, but there are still, it's still a theory. So it can be challenged. It can be further developed. And that map, the map of female, it's been developed by the red pill.
Oh, I think there's more to go on that. I think
there is, but okay, here's where I want to go. The map of female that's been developed by the red pill is attacked by various groups, including traditional Christians.
Yep.
We don't agree with the map. And given that map, what you do with the map, we certainly don't agree with that. But they won't say they don't agree with the map.
But they don't agree with the map. The descriptors
but they don't agree with the map. The descriptors are the problem.
The descriptors will always be the problem. That's our view, and we're sticking to it.
And it was first said here, the descriptors are the problem. We developed that. We did a show on that. If you don't understand that the descriptors are the problem, go back and find our stream. I think that was the exact title.
Yeah, they hide behind they hide behind the thing of, oh, it's degenerate. Okay. Well, no, we only have problems with the prescriptions, but if you dig down deep enough, if you really engage, if you dissect their thought, you see, no, they might have moral issues, and so do we here, right? But they really just don't like reality. And it also reflects how the church, for probably about 100 years or so, or 150 years, and how you stretch it, have rejected natural law. There's a correlation.
Okay,
some of the churchmen used to say some of the same things that the red pill guys are saying. The older guys.
Yeah. So the descriptions are the problem was exposed in the narrative number 15. We did that about 5 months ago. It might behoove us to revisit that at some point soon, because this hasn't gone away. And in fact, I would argue that it's gotten worse, because the tradcons are on parade right now. And the tradcons hate the descriptions almost more than the lefties do, because the lefties, at one of their core philosophies, is sort of this hyper individualism, a hyper acceptance of the individual. So, when you describe something, they go, yeah, okay, that sounds like it works for you. You'll hear that a lot, and they're accepting of it. The tradcons, oh my goodness, anything that goes against the tradcon approved narrative is heresy and abomination, and should be struck down with extreme prejudice.
Well, this is how I would say it. The tradcons would have you to believe that if you're not with us, you're anti-Christian. Well, my response is, I'm not with you, but I'm not anti-Christian. I really believe in Christian truth, in natural law, and all those things that you profess to believe in. But yet, the descriptors of the red pill, I believe in those, and I look into the Bible, I see them there in the Old Testament. What's your problem, guys? You seem to have this, we have evolved as humans, and now we've moved on to a more egalitarian, equal, permissive, accepting way of loving as Christ loved. Yeah, let's get back to the basics, guys. Human nature is what it is. And I can be loving, and I can still believe in the hierarchy. Okay. So, it's our foundation. Yeah, that's foundational beliefs. And therefore, the descriptors of women's behavior. What's your problem? You see it all around you. Oh, they're not really that way. Men made them that way. Not. not
look at the data.
So much.
Here's the data set.
Okay, men have failed, women have failed. Men are not responsible for women's failure in general. Women are not responsible for men's failure. Let's just own it. Let's just look at the nature of men and women. Okay?
So, Shu, you are correct. I'm going to pull up MS's comment right below. I think both Protestant and Roman Catholic Western Christianity are a bit feminized and gynocentric. Two things. First,
currently.
a bit. And second, don't leave the Orthodox Church out of this. The Orthodox Church that's closest to me, where I live, was on Facebook. Back when Facebook was running the pride flag thing, you could overlay your thing, and they were going to have a whole sermon, a whole series of sermons in Pride Month about how Christianity really is just very accepting, and Orthodox Christianity, the Orthodox, it's just hyper accepting, and all the ways that Orthodoxy supports the Skittles people. So no, don't tell me that Orthodox is somehow immune to this stuff going on.
It's everyone. It's everywhere.
The only immunity that Orthodoxy has is that it's small, and so it's not frequently targeted. Apple Computer, for the long time, Mac OS was, you just never heard about viruses against it. Why? Because almost no one used them, so there's no benefit to writing a virus for it. Nowadays, there's viruses that run on Macs just fine because people use Macs more. It became worth it to target it. The Orthodox Church remains, it's been spared the worst of the Skittles because it's too small to matter. As soon as it gets big, the Skittles people will come for them. And the seeds are already there in the church. In that church, I can tell you right now, because the church nearest to me was doing the same thing. So yeah, that's my warning to the ortho bros. You are not immune. You have misunderstood why you have not fallen under the axe of the Skittles.
You know what would be funny? If there was a mass movement of peaceful men who would recognize these kind of churches and would randomly go in and leave a box of Fruit Loops or a package of Skittles in the back of the church, or at the church.
Ooh, I like this.
Or at the pastor's door, to his office. Just leave a box of Fruit Loops there. Or, generously leave him a package of Skittles. Could this be a mass movement of men nationwide? Just generously leaving Skittles and Fruit Loops around. Okay. Not okay. Don't open up don't sprinkle the Fruit Loops or the Skittles. We're not destructive. We're just being generous folk. And leaving some cereal and candy. What do you think, Nick?
Oh, that's kind of funny. And then take a picture and post it on Twitter.
Yes, guys. Actually, look, this is non-destructive.
This is funny.
This is memeable. You young guys out there.
Oh God, this is a great idea, Steve.
Yes,
this is a great idea.
Lulz. Do it for the lulz on Twitter. So Shu, he says, yeah, I have heard and read Orthodox priests saying 50-50 marriage, first wave feminism was good, men have an abuse problem, etc. Yeah, the Orthodox Church is not immune to any of this. They are just not quite as far along. And so they're just as doomed as the rest of them. So yes. But yes.
Can you imagine a meme picture posted on Twitter, Fruit Loops box in front of a church or a pastor's door with the reverend name on there, whatever. this could be very controversial and be a lot of fun.
Utterly harmless. It's harmless.
No, say, hey, Pastor, do you mind if I got these bags of Skittles. I really thought of you, and take a picture. Hey, do you mind if I put this on the internet?
No, if you put it in front of their door, you don't have to do anything. It's their door. It's public
No.
space. And just put it in front of their door, take a picture of it, and walk away.
Oh man.
Oh yeah. No, Steve, what have you done? What have you done, Steve?
7 man strikes again. It wasn't me. I'm the troublemaker here. I'm the Dang, the papes had a good idea.
I endorse this idea. I love it. Just for the memes and the lulz, for nothing. But also it's that meme in that it's an indicting. We had, there's these memes, they're funny, but they're also an indictment of what's being memed about. I love memes like that.
It's harmless. It's
harmless.
Or
what are they going to do? Complain that you left them some candy?
If a pastor has not done you right, you have some disagreement, let's say in a divorce or something, just mail him a package of Skittles.
Yeah.
This could be the new way of just saying, I know you weren't the man you should have been.
Fruit Loops. You're Fruit Loop. Fruit Loops used to be
they got the little box thing. Remember the little kid size one?
Yeah. Well, calling somebody Fruit Loops used to be an insult. It used to be saying you're kind of stupid, or you're kind of fruity, you're kind of loopy, you're kind of stupid. Skittles is a little more direct towards that one. I would direct a little bit more towards the pastors who are all pro Skittles people. But yeah, there you go, guys. Do it for the lulz. Do it for the memes. This sounds like great fun. Great, and it's and like, okay, what's the big complaint? Somebody's left you a little box of cereal. Okay.
Hey, and by the way, there's this new study in the PCA about these people that have like these deaconesses and stuff. Hey, perfect targets, guys.
Oh, yes. Deaconess is not a word. It's not a word.
Christians. It's a lot of frustrated Christian men who are just tired of the deaconesses and the crap that goes on. Boxes of Fruit Loops randomly left around. Oh, it's beautiful. Because it's such an irritant, but it's letting them know of your discontent in a non-aggressive way.
Yeah.
Hey,
I got to go load up on Skittles and Fruit Loops.
You know what?
Do it.
My prediction is somebody's going to discover that Tiny Mustache Man used to eat Fruit Loops. So therefore,
yes. And Skittles too. He had a thing for Skittles. I'm sure of
it. Somehow, Tiny Mustache Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about AI, guys, though.
Yeah, well, try and keep the three of us on task for the entire 2 hours.
So, Skittles are from 1971, but I'm sure somehow they made their way back to the 1930s. I'm sure of it. All right, so I think we've kind of beat this one to death again, the AI thing. that was actually a really fun conversation, and I want to give a shout out to the chat. You guys brought your A game tonight. Okay, Tacticus, I got to pull that one up. Okay. 99 Skittles nailed on the church doors. Going
not 95? Not 90.
Oh,
or is he talking
enough? Close.
Or is it the bottles of something on the wall? Yeah.
Well, I think he's mixing metaphors. I think because I think there's a little bit of Luther in there too.
Okay.
So, chat, you guys brought your A game tonight. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of good questions in the chat, and you guys kind of directed us where we were going with this one a little bit, which is good. It's always fun to do those streams where we're just kind of playing back and forth with the chat. So, hopefully we answer.
Let me summarize. AI is going to have a huge impact.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't know what it is.
Yep.
It's just like all of us more traditional, conservative, whatever you wanted to. I haven't come up with a descriptor for myself because neither one really fit. But we knew something big was going to happen. And then it happened. But it wasn't what we expected. So we're still kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Okay, AI is going to have that same impact. We know something is going to happen. It's going to have a huge impact. But it's not going to be whatever you think it is. It's going to actually turn out differently. Doesn't mean don't think about it. Don't try and plan for it. Anticipate. But when it happens, you're going to say, oh, shit, I didn't imagine that would happen.
Yep. Which means we'll probably continue to talk about AI off and on as we go forward, as new information reveals itself. To be, perfectly honest, guys, the past few weeks have offered us a cornucopia of topics to talk about. So there's a bit of a selection problem for us in what we choose to talk about, which means we're going to talk about all of it at some point, but we might not be, up to the minute with our reactions. And that's okay. We like to think before we react. So yeah. Well, you know what? I don't have anything else to add. Nick, do you have anything else?
No. Next week, I think I'm leading. I'll be doing something on some Dalrock articles. So
excellent. That sounds like fun.
So we'll be looking at probably Dalrock, probably something to do with vetting women. So we'll revisit that aspect, but from Dalrock. So
okay. And Nick's going to be our leader on this one. This will be an interesting one for sure. All right, guys. Yep. Join us next week for Nick's Dalrock episode. On your way out, if you liked what you heard, give this video a like. If you want to hear more of our all over the map musings, give us a subscribe. And if you have any questions about what you heard, or maybe we got something wrong, heaven forfend, it happens sometimes. Give us a comment and we'll be happy to address it. Well, if we can remember to get to the comments. Sorry, guys, I've been remiss on that myself. So, yeah, that's all we've got for this week. We will see you next Wednesday. Later.
Bye.